Some people say they like falling asleep to my English lessons. So, what I've done is I've combined over 3 hours of English lessons. So, if you want, you can fall asleep while I teach English. And what better weather is there to fall asleep to than rain? Listening to that pitter patter of rain on my rain hood. It won't be raining during these English lessons. I will be in my basement. Or maybe you just want to learn a lot of English. Well, this lesson is perfect too. I think I'm going to go inside and get dry, but if you don't mind hitting that like button before we begin, it would really help other people find this English lesson. Thanks so much. Enjoy. Before we get into this lesson, I just want to say this news story has a lot to do with religion. And as a teacher for 20 years, I have had students of all different types of religions: Christians, Muslims, Jews. And I have found that most people from these religions want peace. Luckily, in this news story, the reporters never refer to this man as a Muslim. This person wanted to kill people who were Jewish, but some people might watch this story, hear about where he's from, hear his name, and think that he is Muslim. Just to be clear, the Muslims I know would never do something like this. Let's get into this news story that I hope will help you with your English. Watching the news in English is a great way to improve your English. Unfortunately, the news often uses really difficult vocabulary words, but don't worry. In today's English lesson, we will look at a news clip and we will talk about all of those difficult phrasal verbs, idioms, advanced vocabulary you might see on the IELTS or TOEFL exam. In today's clip, you are going to see a story about a man who wanted to do a lot of bad things in New York City to people who are Jewish. Thankfully, spoiler alert, he was caught and could not do those bad things. Let's take a look at the clip and we'll come back and talk about it.
But we're going to begin with some breaking news, and it is most disturbing and frightening. A man busted by officials who say he was planning to target and kill Jews in New York City.
First word they used that might have been difficult is disturbing. What does disturbing mean? It means something that makes you feel upset or worried. The news about the planned attack was very disturbing to many people. Thankfully, the man was busted before he could do any damage. What does busted mean? Caught by the police or in trouble for doing something wrong. The man was busted at the Canadian border trying to enter the U.S.
But we're going to begin with some breaking news, and it is most disturbing and frightening. A man busted by officials who say he was planning to target and kill Jews in New York City.
The alleged plot timed for the upcoming Jewish holidays next month. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger is in the newsroom with the breaking story. Josh.
Liz, the upcoming High Holy Days and also the upcoming one-year anniversary of the October 7th Hamas massacre.
This word is so important when watching the news. We are going to talk about it twice, but we'll use it in two different ways. The first way is alleged. Alleged. In the United States, when someone is accused of a crime, they are always not guilty. Or we use the term presumed innocent, meaning like we just think they didn't do it until they go to trial and it's proven. So alleged means accused of doing something wrong, but not proven yet. Everyone accused of a crime is presumed innocent before being proven guilty. The man allegedly planned to attack a Jewish center in New York. Allegedly. Don't worry, we'll talk about it one more time a little later. High Holy Days. What does that mean? Important religious holidays for Jewish people. The suspect wanted to time his attack during the Jewish high holidays. Let's look at this paragraph that talks about those Jewish high holy days.
The Jewish high holy days are a special and important time in the Jewish religion. They begin with Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and end with Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. I am going to simply talk about what atonement means in English, and then we will read about it. But atonement means you've done bad things. You say you're sorry for those bad things and try to never do them again. Back to the paragraph. During these days, Jewish people reflect on their actions from the past, ask for forgiveness, and make promises to be better in the future. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year and is often spent fasting and praying. Just in case you don't know what fasting means in English, that means to go without eating food. A lot of Muslims fast during the month of Ramadan. Christians also will fast. They might fast on Good Friday or during Lent. Back to the paragraph right after fasting and praying, the final sentence. These holidays are a time for both celebration and serious reflection for Jewish people around the world. If you are enjoying this English lesson, would you mind hitting that like button? And if this is your first time here, please subscribe so you never miss another English lesson. Now back to the clip, and when we come back, we will talk about a horrible word, massacre.
But we're going to begin with some breaking news, and it is most disturbing and frightening. A man busted by officials who say he was planning to target and kill Jews in New York City.
The alleged plot timed for the upcoming Jewish holidays next month. Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einiger is in the newsroom with the breaking story. Josh.
Liz, the upcoming High Holy Days and also the upcoming one-year anniversary of the October 7th Hamas massacre in Israel. According to the criminal complaint, Mohammed Shahzeb Khan planned to inflict maximum harm on Jews here in New York.
Yeah, I will make that picture a little bigger. It looks like a lot of tombstones or grave sites are in that picture. There are probably many people buried under those tombstones. Massacre in English means a brutal and violent killing of many people. Thankfully, here's a sentence. The authorities stopped a potential massacre that could have happened in New York. Potential. It just means like it could have happened. If you keep studying English every day, you have the potential to be really good. But guess what? If you understand most of what I'm saying now, you are already really good. Inflict. Another word that I don't really like. It means to cause harm or damage. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but in that picture is a cigarette. There's a good chance if you smoke, you will inflict harm on yourself. You will inflict harm on your body, probably your lungs. Here's a sentence that uses inflict. He wanted to inflict harm on Jewish people during his attack. Maximum like the most. Maximum means the largest or highest possible amount. If convicted, meaning if this guy is found guilty, if convicted, he could face a maximum of 20 years in prison. Yeah, he didn't kill anybody. He just wanted to kill people. And that could land him in jail for up to 20 years.
As the upcoming High Holy Days and also the upcoming one-year anniversary of the October 7th Hamas massacre in Israel. According to the criminal complaint, Mohammed Shahzeb Khan planned to inflict maximum harm on Jews here in New York. In parts of Brooklyn sit some of the most densely populated Hasidic Jewish communities on the planet.
The news reporters mention densely populated. What does that mean in English? An area with a lot of people living close together. The attack was planned in a densely populated part of Brooklyn. Brooklyn is what we call a borough of New York City. In other words, it's like a large neighborhood of New York City. The opposite of densely populated is sparsely populated. Here is a trivia question. Do you know the most sparsely populated country in the world? I'll give you 5 seconds to think. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That country is Greenland. Or at least we call it Greenland in English. Yeah, it's Greenland. That's how we spell it in English. Not Greenland, that's how it's spelled, but we pronounce it Greenland. Second most sparsely populated country in the world? That would be Mongolia.
According to the criminal complaint, Mohammed Shahzeb Khan planned to inflict maximum harm on Jews here in New York. And parts of Brooklyn sit some of the most densely populated Hasidic Jewish communities on the planet.
The news clip also mentions Hasidic Jews. What are Hasidic Jews? Group of Jewish people who follow strict religious customs. Hasidic Jews, who are men, will often have these curls right here on the side of their head hanging down. And in English, probably Hebrew too, we call them peos. Let's look at a sentence using Hasidic Jews. He specifically targeted Hasidic Jews in his plan. If you're not sure of what specifically means, don't worry. We will talk about it a little later.
But we're going to begin with some breaking news, and it is most disturbing and frightening. A man busted by officials who say he was planning to target and kill Jews in New York City.
The alleged plot timed for the upcoming Jewish holidays next month.
According to the criminal complaint, Mohammed Shahzeb Khan planned to inflict maximum harm on Jews here in New York. In parts of Brooklyn sit some of the most densely populated Hasidic Jewish communities on the planet. Communities where tonight people are walking to Friday night services under the watchful eye of law enforcement, which has already deployed its holiday staffing for extra security.
Watchful eye is next. What is a watchful eye? Well, that picture will help you. Paying careful attention to something. The authorities kept a watchful eye on his online activities. Parents should keep a watchful eye on their young children. Deployed, that means sent to a place for a special purpose, like soldiers or police officers. We can also use the verb deployed when it comes to jumping out of an airplane. That red thing in the picture is called a parachute. And shortly after a person jumps out of an airplane, they will deploy their parachute, meaning it will open. Here is a sentence using deployed. Police were deployed to the area to ensure safety.
Communities where tonight people are walking to Friday night services under the watchful eye of law enforcement, which has already deployed its holiday staffing for extra security. According to a federal complaint unsealed this afternoon, Khan, a 20-year-old Pakistani citizen living in Canada, had reposted an ISIS propaganda online, attracting the attention of undercover law enforcement agents with whom he allegedly plotted to come to New York and attack crowds of Hasidic Jews.
Unsealed. I think first we should talk about what a seal is. In the picture, there is a seal on that envelope. That little red circle thing is a seal, so nobody can open it. Or if you open it, you know that it has been opened because that seal has been broken. Be careful. We also have another type of seal. It's a type of animal. When you see un at the beginning of a word, it means not. So unsealed literally means not sealed. But what's the official definition? Made public or opened, especially in a legal case. The court unsealed the documents that explained the charges against him. Some things are not made public, so they stay sealed. But when they are unsealed, they are opened to the public. Reposted. You will hear this a lot when it comes to social media. Like after I am done recording and editing this video, I will post it on YouTube. When you see re in front of a word, that means again. The official definition of reposted means shared something again online. The man reposted violent messages from Islamic State on social media. Again, just my opinion, and I don't often add my opinion to these English lessons, but if something is from the Islamic State, I know it has Islam in the title, but I don't think most Muslims believe in this stuff.
According to a federal complaint unsealed this afternoon, Khan, a 20-year-old Pakistani citizen living in Canada, had reposted an ISIS propaganda online, attracting the attention of undercover law enforcement agents with whom he allegedly plotted to come to New York and attack crowds of Hasidic Jews, specifically either on October 7th, the anniversary of the Hamas attack, or October 11th, which is Yom Kippur, the holiest day on the Jewish calendar.
Propaganda. It can be a very difficult term. I teach this in my classroom, and it often takes weeks to teach this. But let's try it here in a shorter lesson. Propaganda. What does that mean? Information that tries to make people believe something but doesn't tell the whole truth. During World War II, the US government used propaganda to try to make people enlist in the army. Posters like this, Uncle Sam wants you. Here is an example sentence using propaganda. He shared propaganda from the Islamic State to gain support for his plans. Undercover. What if I told you the people in the picture were actually police, but they were undercover? What does undercover mean? Working secretly. Police officers do this, pretending to be somebody else. They might be more likely to capture a criminal if they don't look like police officers, if they are working undercover. The man discussed his plans with undercover officers who pretended to be his friends.
Had reposted an ISIS propaganda online, attracting the attention of undercover law enforcement agents with whom he allegedly plotted to come to New York and attack crowds of Hasidic Jews.
All right, we are back to allegedly. We talked about alleged earlier. It might be helpful to watch this English lesson 2 or 3 times. When you re-watch the English lesson, you will have already heard some of these words before. It just makes it a little easier. Allegedly, something that is claimed to be true but hasn't been proven yet. He allegedly shared photos of the place where he wanted to carry out the attack. Carry out. An English phrasal verb in that sentence. Tricky.
Had reposted an ISIS propaganda online, attracting the attention of undercover law enforcement agents with whom he allegedly plotted to come to New York and attack crowds of Hasidic Jews, specifically either on October 7th, the anniversary of the Hamas attack, or October 11th, which is Yom Kippur, the holiest day on the Jewish calendar.
Specifically, there is an S in front of that word. A lot of native English speakers pronounce this wrong. Specifically, referring to something in a detailed or exact way. I live in the United States. Specifically, I live in the state of Maine. He specifically targeted a Jewish community center in Brooklyn. Yom Kippur. We talked about this holiday earlier. It is one of the most important Jewish holidays, known as the Day of Atonement. Hopefully you remember what atonement means in English. He considered launching the attack on Yom Kippur a sacred day for Jewish people. Watching the news in English is a great way to become a better English speaker. And today we are going to watch a news clip about the upcoming debate between Vice President Harris and former President Trump. I'm recording this on September 9th, 2024. They are having their debate on September 10th, 2024. This lesson is designed to get you ready to watch that debate. You will see that there are subtitles on the screen, and I slowed it down just a little bit.
It wasn't the debate either candidate expected months ago. but it's shaping up to be the most anticipated event to date in the 2024 contest.
In the news clip, they used the English phrasal verb shaping up. Let's talk about what that means. For each of the terms we discuss, I will have a picture that will hopefully help you understand the term. I'll have an official definition for you, and I will use it in a sentence. Shaping up, the way something is developing or turning out. I hope this lesson is shaping up to be a great one. Here is a sentence using the English phrasal verb shaping up. The debate is shaping up to be very exciting, with both candidates ready to talk about why they are the best. You can also talk about getting in shape, and that is what is happening in the picture. If you are a little heavy, maybe you slim down a little bit, you lose a little weight, maybe you gain some muscle. Here's a sentence using get in shape. She goes to the gym every day to get in shape. Before I forget, if you are enjoying this English lesson, do you mind hitting that thumbs up? And if it's your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another English lesson. I was going to talk about this later in the lesson because the news clip mentions it later, but I think we should talk about debate just in case you don't know what that means. A debate is a discussion where two people talk about different ideas and try to prove their point. Do you see in the picture those two wooden things? Most debates happen behind a podium. Let's talk about what a podium is. Those wooden things in the picture are called podiums. She stood at the podium to give her speech.
It wasn't the debate either candidate expected months ago, but it's shaping up to be the most anticipated event to date in the 2024 contest.
The next one they talked about is anticipated. Anticipated, what does that mean? Expected or looked forward to. The debate is highly anticipated because people want to see what Trump and Harris will say. So if you are really looking forward to something happening, you could say that you have anticipation. That is the noun form. Love it. I love it. 2 English phrasal verbs in the first 4 definitions. Square off. What does that mean? To face each other in a fight or an argument. And in the picture, you can see 2 boxers look like they are squaring off, getting ready to fight. A lot of boxing terms are also used when you talk about debate. We will have a couple more of these terms. Let's talk about the sentence. Harris and Trump will square off in the debate to discuss their ideas.
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris will square off on a Philadelphia stage next Tuesday for the first and perhaps only time before November's election.
I look forward to the debates because I think we have to set the record straight.
I love this word too. Perhaps. It's another way to say maybe a little more formal. The definition, maybe, possibly, perhaps I will watch the debate tomorrow night. Here's a sentence right down there. Perhaps the debate will change how people feel about the candidate. I doubt that is true. I think most Americans have already made up their mind on who they are going to vote for. Made up their mind. That means to pick something, decide something, set the record straight. What does that mean? To correct false information and tell the truth. Trump will try to set the record straight on his policies during the debate.
Donald Trump and Kamala Harris will square off on a Philadelphia stage next Tuesday for the first and perhaps only time before November's election.
I look forward to the debates because I think we have to set the record straight.
If you got something to say, say it to my face.
The meeting comes just 2.5 months after President Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance that upended his re-election bid.
Disastrous. It is an adjective. It means very bad or causing harm. A disastrous debate performance could hurt a candidate's chances of winning the election. Oh yeah, we have seen that. Do you remember the last presidential debate? It was Trump against Biden, he did so badly that he had to drop out of the race. I made a whole English lesson about that. I will leave a link to that lesson at the end of this one. Disastrous, but you could have a disaster. Disaster is the noun form of disastrous. If you look at that picture, it looks like a natural disaster has swept through that neighborhood. Who knows? Maybe it was a tornado.
I look forward to the debates because I think we have to set the record straight.
If you got something to say, say it to my face.
The meeting comes just 2.5 months after President Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance that upended his re-election bid. While few expect a similar political earthquake to result from this matchup, both sides will be looking to score that knockout blow.
Upended. In that picture, it looks like there is a war going on, and war can definitely upend people's lives. Let's talk about what it means. Completely changed or turned upside down. The debate could upend the election by changing who people want to vote for. Losing her job upended her life for a few months. Upended is never a good thing. It's always a bad change. Unfortunately, there are a lot of wars going on in the world right now, and war often upends someone's life. Maybe they have to move to another country. Maybe they have family members or loved ones who die as a result of the war. Back to more boxing terms when talking about this debate: knockout blow. Take a look at that picture and let's listen to the definition. A powerful action or argument that completely defeats someone. A strong argument from Harris could deliver a knockout blow to Trump's campaign. If that happens, and it is so bad, who knows? President Trump may drop out of the race. I don't think that is going to happen.
The meeting comes just 2.5 months after President Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance that upended his re-election bid. While few expect a similar political earthquake to result from this matchup, both sides will be looking to score that knockout blow.
The stakes for Tuesday night's debate couldn't be any greater. This is kind of the first time they'll get to see both candidates on the stage together. I think it's the first time they've ever been in the same room.
Harris and Trump will be sparring in a state expected to play a crucial role in November's election.
Sparring, another boxing term. It's like boxing practice, but you could spar with someone in a debate, meaning you bring up good points, you talk about good things. Both candidates have to do that. Arguing or fighting in a light back and forth way. The last debate between Biden and Trump got pretty nasty, so I don't think it is going to be light. I think it might be serious. The candidates will be sparring over important issues like the economy and healthcare. Anytime you hear the economy, think money. You can have a sparring partner in boxing. It's like practice for boxing.
Harris and Trump will be sparring in a state expected to play a crucial role in November's election. Polls show the candidates essentially tied in Pennsylvania, a key swing state that has sided with the winner of the last two presidential contests by just tens of thousands of votes.
In the news clip, they also mentioned crucial. What does that mean? Very important. The debate is crucial because it could help people decide who to vote for. Look at that picture. It looks like there is a hose with water coming out and some plants on the bottom. If you want to grow plants, it is crucial that they get enough water. Remember, crucial, very important. Crucial and critical can often be used interchangeably. They are synonyms often, but not all the time. Somebody could be in critical condition in the hospital, but you can't say they are in crucial condition. Critical condition means they are very sick or badly hurt, essentially. It means basically or mostly. Essentially, the debate will show who is better prepared to lead the country? Essentially is often used to prove a point. That word can often be taken right out of the sentence and it doesn't change the meaning. But essential is quite different. It means very important, like crucial. To some people, bread is essential to life. I know when I was visiting Turkey this summer, or Turkiya, bread was very important there. Almost every meal is served with bread. So to many people in Turkey, bread is essential to life. Essential means very necessary. It's essential to study every day if you want to improve your English. I have mentioned this in other videos, but key swing state. They are going to talk about two states, Pennsylvania and Florida. That map right there, the red state is Pennsylvania. And the definition of a key swing state is a state where either candidate could win, making it very important in the election. Sadly, my little state of Maine, with only about 1 million people, is not a key swing state. The candidates don't visit my state very often. But Florida is a key swing state. The candidates will try to win support from voters in key swing states like Pennsylvania and Florida. Circumstances. In the picture, you can see there is a house on fire. I wonder what the circumstances were to cause that fire. What does circumstances mean? The condition or facts that affect a situation. Due to the circumstances of the election, this debate is more important than usual. Take a look at that picture for circumstances. It looks like there is quite a bit of snow. How about this sentence? Due to unforeseen circumstances, we had to cancel the party. So maybe you didn't know it was going to snow and you had a party scheduled, but a snowstorm could force you to cancel that party. Unforeseen circumstances.
Harris and Trump will be sparring in a state expected to play a crucial role in November's election. Polls show the candidates essentially tied in Pennsylvania, a key swing state that has sided with the winner of the last two presidential contests by just tens of thousands of votes.
Given it's one night only and the unique history and circumstances surrounding it, it's going to be unforgettable and could go down as one of the most impactful presidential debates of all time.
Impactful. What does impactful mean? Having a strong effect on something. The debate will be impactful in helping voters decide who they trust more. Take a look at that picture. That woman might be an impactful speaker. She was an impactful speaker. Everyone listened to her every word. Her speech changed some lives. His father impacted his life when he was younger, making him want to be a better person. Let's go back to our picture of that snowstorm. You could say the weather impacted the party, causing it to be canceled. Opponent. You can have an opponent in a debate. You can have an opponent in a soccer game. But in a debate, an opponent is the person you are arguing or competing against. Kamala Harris will speak about her ideas, and Donald Trump, her opponent, will share his. Every good debate needs a moderator. What is that? The person who asks questions and controls the debate. The moderator will ask questions and make sure both Harris and Trump have time to answer. A good debate should have some rules. Maybe each candidate can talk for 2 minutes and then they let the other candidate talk for 2 more minutes. When President Trump debates, it can usually get pretty crazy. What about policies? They mentioned that in the news clip. Plans or ideas a leader has about how to run a country. They will talk about their policies, such as what they plan to do about taxes and jobs. Harris and Trump disagree over the policy of abortion. Just a few hours ago, former President Trump and Vice President Harris had a debate. In today's English lesson, we are going to learn some English phrasal verbs, some advanced vocabulary, and some idioms that will help you if you want to watch some of the news talking about how the two candidates did. Many people in the United States disagree. Did Trump do better? Did Harris do better? I am just an English teacher. I am not going to share my opinion. I just want to give you the tools so that you can watch the news and form your own opinion. Let's take a look at a news clip. I have slowed it down just a little bit and I have put the words on the screen. Let's watch and then I will come back and we can talk about it.
Tonight in Results 2024, as Vice President Harris and former President Trump face off in their first and possibly only debate.
It was actually the first time the two had ever met face to face. Neither one held back when it comes to some of the big issues in the race. News 6's Mark Lehman is following the latest this morning, and of course, things got tense at times, Mark.
In the news report, you saw them mention face to face. Let's talk about what that means in English. It means meeting in person, talking directly to someone. During the last debates in 2020, they were not face-to-face debates. We will talk about what kind they were in just a little bit. For every term, every idiom, I will have a picture, I will have the official definition, and I will also use it in a sentence. In last night's debate, Trump and Harris had a face-to-face discussion about important issues. Oh boy, our first English phrasal verb, held back. Held back can be used in a couple different ways, but in the news report, it was used like this: stopping yourself from saying or doing something harsh out of respect. So maybe you don't always say exactly what's on your mind. You don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, but in the news report, they said both candidates did not hold back. Here is an example sentence. I'm not sure if this is true. Trump held back his anger when Harris criticized his policies. Criticize means to say bad things about something. I don't know. It seemed like Trump got a little angry. Please let me know in the comments if you think he got angry or did he hold back his anger? And also, if you believe this English lesson is helping you learn English, would you mind hitting that like button? And if this is your first time here, subscribe so you never miss another English lesson.
Tonight in Results 2024, as Vice President Harris and former President Trump face off in their first and possibly only debate.
It was actually the first time the two had ever met face to face. Neither one held back when it comes to some of the big issues in the race. News 6's Mark Lehman is following the latest this morning, and of course, things got tense at times, Mark.
Yeah, there was some heated back and forth over key topics in this race. Each of the candidates knocking the other's policies.
Ooh, tense. Take a look at that picture. Tense. What does it mean? We have a couple different meanings in English, but let's talk about this one. When people feel nervous or worried, making the situation uncomfortable. The debate became tense when they talked about immigration. And if you don't know what immigration is in English, it means people moving from one country to another. It is one of the topics that has been talked a lot about in this election. We will talk about a few more later.
Yeah, there was some heated back and forth over key topics in this race.
Heated back and forth. Heated back and forth. What does that mean? Well, if you know heat, it does have something to do with being hot, but it doesn't have anything to do with temperature. If someone gets mad, you can say that they are hot. When we talk about heated here, it has something to do with anger, with being tense. Heated back and forth. A strong argument between people with lots of disagreement. Disagreement, meaning
they don't agree. There was a heated back and forth between Trump and Harris over healthcare. That is another big topic in this election. Healthcare. Not every American can afford cheap healthcare. It costs a lot of money for some people to visit the hospital or to visit the doctor's office.
Yeah, there was some heated back and forth over key topics in this race, each of the candidates knocking the other's policies and defending their own records in hopes to sway undecided voters.
In the news report, they said knocking policies. Now, you might know what knocking means. One way we use it is like in the picture. Somebody is knocking on a door. It might sound like this. But knocking policies means something different. Criticizing, remember, saying bad things about something or questioning it. Criticizing or finding problems with someone's plans or ideas. Harris kept knocking Trump's policies on the economy. If you have seen any of my other English lessons about the election, we have talked about economy. Think money.
Each of the candidates knocking the other's policies and defending their own records in hopes to sway undecided voters.
They talked about swaying undecided voters. Let's talk about sway first. It's a verb meaning to change someone's opinion or decision. Let's use it in a sentence. Both candidates tried to sway undecided voters by explaining their views. In other words, you try to change somebody's mind. But undecided voters, what does that mean? People who haven't decided who they will vote for. There's a small percentage of Americans who don't know who they are going to vote for yet. I am filming this in early September. Those voters have until early November to decide on who they will vote for, who they will choose to vote for. Let's look at a sentence using undecided voters. Undecided voters were watching closely to see who had the better answers.
Yeah, there was some heated back and forth over key topics in this race, each of the candidates knocking the other's policies and defending their own records in hopes to sway undecided voters. A handshake kicked off the first meeting between former President Trump and Vice President Harris.
There's a good chance you hate English phrasal verbs because they can be so tricky. Let's talk about one of those pesky English phrasal verbs right here, kicked off. Now, you may have heard of somebody being kicked off a bus. That means they were forced to leave, but kicked off can mean something else. It can mean to start something. The debate kicked off with questions about inflation. If you don't know what inflation is, don't worry. We will talk about it a little later.
A handshake kicked off the first meeting between former President Trump and Vice President Harris. The two then sparred over one of the top issues for voters, the economy.
I did make an English lesson about getting ready or getting prepared to watch the presidential debate. You may want to watch that video after this one, but I mentioned sparring. So let's talk about it again because they used it in the news clip. To argue or debate in a strong but controlled way. By controlled way, that means nobody got too angry. It didn't get too heated. Trump and Harris sparred over the issue of abortion during the debate. And I did an entire English lesson about how Harris and Trump disagree over abortion. I will leave a link to that at the end of this video. And if you don't know what abortion is, don't worry. We will talk about that a little later too.
A handshake kicked off the first meeting between former President Trump and Vice President Harris. The two then sparred over one of the top issues for voters, the economy.
I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
I had no inflation, virtually no inflation.
Virtually. Virtually. We can use virtually in two ways, and we will talk about them both right now. Virtually can mean almost. Take a look at that picture. I will make it a little bigger, but fog is virtually covering that entire bridge. We can only see a little bit of it. It's almost completely covered in fog. And that is the official definition of this virtually, meaning almost completely. Harris said Trump's plan was virtually impossible to work. It's another way to say almost. But what if I said the 2020 presidential debates were held virtually? What does that mean? That means not in person, not face to face, not head to head, which we will talk about in just a minute. Let's make that picture a little bigger. It looks like they are having a virtual meeting in the picture. Nobody is actually in the room with each other. So let's look at the official definition: online or through video, not in person. So in 2024, this sentence is true. The debate was held live, not held virtually, like some events. Inflation. Everyone around the world is talking about inflation, and here in the United States, it's no different. I know that if you are living in Argentina or Turkey or Turkey, inflation is out of control. What does inflation mean? When the prices of things go up, making it harder to buy them. Yes, we have inflation here in the United States. Americans don't like it, but I do know it is worse in other places around the world. Here's an example sentence. Trump said that inflation is a major problem for families right now.
The two then sparred over one of the top issues for voters, the economy.
I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation.
Abortion was another big topic.
For years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done.
Again, I have a whole video on the differences between Trump and Harris when it comes to abortion. But that was a big topic last night during the debate. What is it? It's a medical procedure to end a pregnancy. Harris and Trump strongly disagreed on abortion during the debate. In the news clip, they mention federal government. I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about how it is different from state government. We have both here in the United States, but the federal government, the national government that makes laws for the whole country. There are some laws that are the same for all Americans. It doesn't matter which state somebody lives in. Trump said the federal government should handle the economy better. But also, every state has its own government. Sometimes when you visit a different state, it can almost be like visiting a different country. State government, kind of like what it sounds like. The government that controls each individual state. Harris argued that state government should have more say on healthcare. That is just an example sentence. She said almost the opposite when it comes to abortion. Right now, each state handles the laws when it comes to abortion. She wants that to be handled at the federal level. She wants federal government to take over abortion rights.
Abortion was another big topic.
For years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done.
The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
The candidates then went head to head on border security.
Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border.
We talked about face-to-face earlier. How about head-to-head? It's basically the same thing. A direct competition between two people. Trump and Harris went head-to-head in a debate about taxes. Okay, some big topics: immigration, healthcare, abortion, inflation, the economy. Well, this one is about immigration. They mention the southern border. If you know north and you know south, the United States is bordered by Canada to the north, and it is bordered by Mexico to the south. What is the southern border? The border between the U.S. and Mexico. Trump promised stricter control at the southern border. Many Republicans, that is Trump's party, believes too many immigrants are coming in through the southern border.
Abortion was another big topic.
For years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done.
The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
The candidates then went head-to-head on border security.
Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border?
He'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Former President Trump also worked to link Harris to President Joe Biden, who dropped out of the race back in July.
Be careful with this one. They mentioned the verb linked. We also have the noun link. I often say I will leave a link to that lesson at the end of this video. That is a noun, but link can also be a verb, something you do. So it can mean closely connected to something else. Harris said inflation and unemployment are linked. Unemployment means people do not have jobs.
Former President Trump also worked to link Harris to President Joe Biden, who dropped out of the race back in July.
She is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden.
I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
The debate ending with each making their case to voters.
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first.
Guess what? Studying English a lot is linked to you becoming better at English. In the news report, they mentioned that Trump puts himself first, or at least that's what Vice President Harris said. What does that mean, putting yourself first? That means thinking of their own needs before others. So if you are a parent, you shouldn't put your needs before the child's needs. The child needs the parent to survive. Harris accused Trump of putting himself first instead of the American people.
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first.
She's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
In a post on social media, former President Trump called the debate 3 against 1, saying the moderators were biased and failed to fact-check Harris.
Okay, we have a tricky one here. Biased. Biased. In a minute, we're going to talk about another word, bias. But what does biased mean? Unfairly, preferring one side over the other. Trump claimed the media was biased against him during the debate, meaning the moderators, if you watched the English lesson I did about getting ready for the debate, you know what moderators are. Trump thought the moderators were biased against him, meaning they liked Vice President Harris better. So to review, biased is an adjective that describes someone or something as showing unfair preference or prejudice. For example, the news report was biased towards the opposing political party. If it's real news, it should be unbiased, right down the middle. I always try to pick unbiased news stories for us to watch in these English lessons. But you can also have a bias. In short, bias is the state or attitude itself, while biased
describes a person or thing that has bias. So they're almost the same thing, but that word, biased, is always an adjective describing somebody or something. Bias is a noun. You can have bias. Fact check. So important when you listen to politicians speak. Are they telling the truth? Fact check. The definition. Checking to see if statements are true. Let's face it, both Harris and Trump lied last night to make themselves sound better. But who lied more? Please let me know in the comments who you think lied more. After the debate, many people wanted to fact check what Trump and Harris said. Did they tell the truth the whole time?
Channel members, let's do this. All right, I need to walk to the airport. It's just kind of through those trees, but I do want to teach you this term in English, park and ride. Park and ride. So I parked here. There's my car. The license plate says Roll Tide. Hang on, let me show you this too. Bama. We'll talk about that along the way. But I am, oh wait, hang on. Park and ride. It's exactly what it sounds like. I parked here. The turnpike or the highway is right there. So a lot of times people will meet at a parking ride, park and ride. If they're taking like two separate cars, but they only want to take one car to their final destination. So Jamie is at school. Wow, I have a lot to talk about. I first need to cross this street though without getting hit. I feel like I'm already confusing people. Okay. But if you are channel members, you are probably used to this, me getting confused, and also walking where there's no sidewalk. Not too fond of that. But park and ride. Let's say I was meeting Jamie somewhere, my wife, and we had two cars. If we only wanted to take one car to the airport, maybe, I could park my car there. She could meet me there, and then we could go to the airport together. It does cost money to park at the airport, so that is one trick you could use. It doesn't cost any money to park at the park and ride. You can't park there for more than 7 days, but that's okay. Okay, the next thing I need to talk about is why I'm walking to the airport. Well, let's go back to the car. If you saw the license plate that I mentioned, there's a trail here, little path. Looks like somebody's on the other side of that fence picking up trash. Anyways, we're going this way. We're going this way. Ugh. Roadkill. I won't show you that. Jamie and I are going to the airport. She is still at school, but we are going to a football game. So we both graduated from the University of Alabama. So if you think back to the car, the license plate says Roll Tide. So whenever we're playing a football game and we want our team to do well, we say Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Hello. Somebody going by on a bike. Somebody else is walking on this street, which is good. I thought I might be the only one. I have my Alabama hat I have my Alabama sunglasses, and I have my Alabama shirt on. I forgot I had my AirPods in. They are doing some strange noises in my ears. Hello. Let's take those out. Save the battery for the airplane. Okay, I took a half day at school today. That means I worked for half a day, and then the other half of the day I took off. I could leave, which I did. It is still early. What time is it? It's 11:36. So I should be teaching third block right now. Oh, way off in the distance, an airplane is taking off. There's the highway. So I should still be teaching right now. It's Thursday. I think I will be able to release this members video today. So if you haven't gone to bed yet and you see the notification, it might be Thursday. But Jamie, who works in the same town that the airport is in, Portland, Maine, she was able to work the whole day because our plane does not take off until 3:45. So I'm getting to the airport very, very early. But I'm going to edit this and release it. And then I'm going to try to finish the English lesson where I go to Istanbul. But it's taken a long time. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, hey. One thing that I have done is I have downloaded some music. Oh, I got a notification about my flight. I think it just says my boarding passes. Yeah. My boarding passes is ready. So we have to fly from Portland, Maine down to Nashville over to Wisconsin. That's our final destination, Wisconsin, because the University of Alabama is playing the University of Wisconsin in football. Okay, I can see the airport from here. Sort of. It's like down there. If you remember, when I went to Brazil, I also walked to the airport. But that morning, my daughter dropped me off at something called Panera Bread. It's way, way, way over there. I don't think we'll be able to see it. Some guy waved to the camera. Did you see that? All right. Did I lose my train of thought again? It's another way to say you forgot what you were saying earlier. I think I lost my train of thought. Jamie's still at work. She's going to meet me here. She is going to park at the parking garage. Yeah. We are going to be gone for today's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We come back at midnight, and then we both have to teach, I would say the next day, but it is the same day since it is technically after midnight. All right, I think that's going to do it. I do want to thank you one more time for being channel members. And oh, way down there, you can see the sign that says Portland International Jetport. They call it Portland International Jetport. International means it goes to at least another country. To be international, it has to go to another country. And it does. I think the only other country you can fly to from this airport is, of course, Canada. I was distracted. There was a cute dog in the car. Okay, that's enough. Thank you so much for being channel members. I will definitely make a few English lessons in Wisconsin. I'm back. They're actually doing construction to the runway. Back. One last time. I forgot to tell you, I am going to be listening to the Rolling Stones. I wonder if you like that music. I've been really getting into the Rolling Stones, which means I've been liking them quite a bit. I've been listening to their music for probably the last 4 or 5 months. So I think one of the albums I will be listening to on the plane ride will be, what's it called? Their Satanic Majesty's Request, I think it's called. A couple songs on there are 2,000 Light Years from Home. It's a good one. She's a Rainbow. In Another World. I think that is the bass player. His name is Bill Wyman. I think that's his song. I also wanted to teach you the English phrasal verb, decked out. I think I have taught it on the channel once before, but it's rare when you can use it. Right now, I am decked out in Alabama gear. So I'm wearing a lot of clothing that says Alabama, so people know which team I like. I have my sunglasses, my hat, my shirt, so I am decked out in Alabama gear. Hello, and welcome back to another English lesson. This English lesson is happening at a hotel. And if this is the first time you have ever seen a hotel English lesson, I got probably 30 on the channel. We are at the Comfort Inn Suites. This one is going to be a little different though, because this hotel is so massive. It's so big. But what I usually do during a hotel English lesson is that I walk around the hotel teaching English, and I cannot stop until I reach my hotel room. So that might mean somebody has stopped us. That has happened before in New York City. Also, is Michael Jackson over there?
He's there. How can he be there?
Oh, can I not film in here?
Yeah, but you need permission to do certain.
Oh, I need permission to. Oh, who do I get permission from? I will leave a link to that one at the end of this channel. But I am, for the first time, in the state of Wisconsin. I got in last night, so this is literally the first time I am seeing the state of Wisconsin during the daytime. And already I have found something that I can teach you in English way off. In the distance, we call that thing a water tower in English. Where I'm from in Maine, we don't have water towers, but this hotel is huge. So I don't think I'm going to be able to film this all in one go. There will be edits. I will stop it. But the second term, right? Because I taught water tower. The second term I would like to teach you is dated. I would call this hotel dated. And by what that means is that this, when it was new, which was probably in the 1990s, it was probably pretty nice. Now, because I'm using that term dated, it's not run down. Rundown is different. Rundown is a bad term to use. Like, I would not want to stay in a rundown hotel. This hotel is dated. So it still has some charm because you can think back to what it might have been like
30 years ago, but it does seem like it's a little dated. This hotel could use a little bit of a facelift, but when we get to the end, I will show you the room. It cost me $120 to stay here last night, and I thought that was a great deal. But let's look at I will try to show you the size of this place, but that's the main hotel over there. Over here, it looks like this part, we can go inside in a minute. It looks like this part was used maybe as an auditorium. I can put up a picture of what an auditorium is, but you might go there to hear a concert, like a small theater. Oh, off in the distance, we have some shipping containers. Those, they're not white. We might call them beige, just beyond that car. Those are shipping containers. And I'm not sure why they're out in that field. And speaking of fields, this whole place is surrounded by fields. Yeah, nothing but fields, I guess, in Wisconsin. We are kind of out in the middle of nowhere. This hotel is in a city or town called Johnson Creek. The highway is just, I don't think you can hear it, but just beyond those trees, you might see cars going by. When we get over to that side of the hotel, you might be able to hear them. But how about this? 2 terms I can teach you. Grass clippings, right here. After you mow the lawn or you mow the grass, the things that are left over are called grass clippings. And I don't think I have been able to ever teach this term before. Crabapple. This is a crabapple tree. Yeah, crabapples are apples that I don't think humans would want to eat. I would not want to try that. I think that apple would be way too tart, but maybe animals would. It just probably means a mess for someone to clean up in the fall. Oh, I do have a rental car, and I will show you that later, but I forgot the keys. It's that darker colored one over there. It has Michigan plates, license plates. This one's an Alabama license plate. Maybe I should talk about why I am in Wisconsin. If you are a channel member, you might already know. I released a video of me walking to the airport and teaching English, and also a video about donuts. But I am here to watch a football game. The University of Alabama is playing the University of Wisconsin. All right, this is where our first cut will be, because it's just such a big hotel and you don't want to hear me rambling while we walk. So here is a cut, and we'll get over to the side of the hotel where the highway is. Uh-oh, looks like somebody was having a beer, maybe last night or the night before. Wisconsin is known for the state that has the most alcoholics. People in the state of Wisconsin love their beer. I think it's mostly beer here. There are a lot of breweries here in Wisconsin. Is that a hard word to say in English? Brewery. It's a place where they make beer. Last year, I went to Kentucky, which is a state that makes a lot of bourbon. Maybe you want to check those videos out. That was a fun trip. But yeah, even though we are out in the middle of nowhere, there isn't a lot around this hotel. It is in a small town, but it's right off the highway. So it's very convenient for travelers going from Milwaukee, which is where we landed, to the city of Madison, which is the capital of Wisconsin and also where the big university is here in this state. Yeah, so that is the main highway. Let's walk to the back of the hotel.
Now they do have security cameras here, so I'm wondering if they are thinking that I am crazy. Like, why is this guy filming our hotel so much? I'm just waiting for someone to come out and ask me. It looks like they store quite a bit of equipment here, maybe some trash. I honestly do not know what these things are. It may have something to do with snow removal. Well, this is probably air conditioning, but I don't know what that is. They do get a lot of snow here in Wisconsin in the winter. Here's a nice little backyard patio, and Jamie and I almost had breakfast out here, but it was just a little too cool this morning, so we stayed inside. There are hardly any people staying at this hotel. Ooh, that was a loud truck. So I was able to film breakfast this morning. I can show you what a typical American breakfast looks like at a typical American hotel. Why don't we cut to that right now? Because there are so few people here, I can actually show you what a typical American breakfast looks like at a hotel. So here we have some yogurt. We would call it yogurt here. What is this? Mixed berry. So just a lot of different berries there. So some plasticware. You get some plastic plates, some napkins, forks, spoons. Just judging by the spoon here, I would say eggs are in this warmer. Yep. You have some scrambled eggs there, and we would call that an omelet. Probably some kind of meat in here. Okay. Bacon, sausage, both pork products. Be careful. Little packets of salt and pepper, ketchup, waffle maker, and then this would be waffle batter. You can have strawberry waffles. I have never seen that. This probably a little tool to get your waffles out of the waffle iron. Some syrup right there. Maple syrup in there. A coffee maker. I can't imagine the coffee is any good out of there. Maybe I will try it later. But you can get some just regular hot water and make some tea. English tea time. There we go. Stir. Different types of cream. Sure. I'm in the way. He needs to get his coffee. We have some juice right there. Got orange juice, apple juice, lemonade. That stuff's probably pretty good. I have one hand. Uh-oh. Let's see. I'll have to try it off camera. It was good. I haven't taken a shower yet, so if I'm going to be on camera, I want to look a little more awake. So we have some fruit here, oranges and apples, different kinds of sugary cereal. Probably those are Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, Raisin Bran, peanut butter. Americans love their peanut butter. Tongs for taking bread. So we have white bread, wheat bread, bagels, and then pastries. Yeah, some kind of pastry there. English muffin, and then maybe blueberry muffins. Oh yeah, blueberry muffins. And then we have a toaster here, and milk. Things that need to stay cold. Cream cheese,
for your bagels, and then butter. That's probably milk too, right? Probably milk. And that looks like the large lawnmower that cut this massive lawn. It's just huge. This is a boot scraper. I have the dad shoes on, but if it's snowy, you can use this to get all of the dirt from your boots before you walk into the hotel. Very nice entrance here though, when you walk in here. I'm telling you, this hotel is massive. It's another way to say big. These hallways are just super long. We'll go into my room in just a second and I'll show you what you get for $120 US in the state of Wisconsin. Okay, we're in the room now. We'll take a look at what $120 gets you. It's actually pretty nice. I would stay here again in a heartbeat. So if you want to say something was really good, you don't even have to think about it. You can say, I would do it in a heartbeat. So let's take a look here at the bathroom. Now, Jamie and I, oops, I don't want that fan on, but I do want the light on to show you. Well, here it is. Maybe not the best lighting, but typical bathroom. Those are the towels we used. We took 2 showers each. So when you're done, you just leave them on the ground. Nice shower head here, a shower wand. There is an adjoining room, that's what we would call it. If you were staying with a family, like maybe parents who want a room of their own and kids, and if they can afford it, they can get 2, or I would just say you can get adjoining rooms, which are 2 rooms next to each other that have a door that leads to the other room. But the doors lock on both sides. So let's see, I don't think anybody's next door, but see. Like they can't come into my room unless I want them, and I can't go into their room unless they want me. So adjoining rooms, it's called. But huge, like if you did have a family on a budget, maybe the kids could sleep here. They also have at a lot of hotels, I don't know if they have it at this hotel, but they have something called a not easy to say, a rollaway bed or a cot. So it's like an extra bed. Sometimes you have to pay extra money, but this room is certainly big enough where you could put a bed that rolls away, or kids could sleep on that couch. Nice king bed, very comfortable, lots of pillows, no complaints there. Not a great view. The windows could be a little cleaner, but there's that tractor. There is, like we saw, I'll get the light better. There is a highway right near here, but you can't hear it in the room. Oh, nice big closet if you have a lot of clothes. And an iron, which, let's talk about wrinkly. Wrinkles. There are a couple different kinds of wrinkles in English. You can have wrinkles in your skin or on your skin. Wrinkles on your skin. When you smile, maybe, I have the wrinkles there. It's what happens when you get old. But my shirt is wrinkled. I'm on vacation. I didn't care too much to iron. Not an easy word for even native English speakers to say. Iron. If you look at it, it looks like iron, but it's iron, like I earn money when I go to work. So I didn't iron today. I'm on vacation. Who cares? I don't know anybody here except Jamie, and she doesn't care. But we have a microwave, which is great, a refrigerator, and a book. Sometimes these books will No. I thought this was a do not disturb sign you could put on the door and say, don't clean my room, I want to sleep late. But it looks like they offer some services here. What do they offer? So in-room amenities. It's like extra things. Delivery request. Okay. So these are free. Oh, it looks like if you want your bathroom cleaned, if you want more toilet paper. Okay. Maybe they'll bring you coffee in the morning? And it seems like all of these are free. I don't see a place where you would pay extra. You should probably tip, I would think. If somebody brings coffee to your room, maybe leave them a couple bucks. What is this? TV channels, boring stuff, fire and safety. Okay, fire and safety. Come on. Who cares about that, right? Maps and attractions. Are there any? Oh, there's the map of where we're at. So yeah, we are in Johnson Creek. I heard Watertown was nice, but we are going to continue west towards Madison. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you're looking for more English lessons at hotels, there is a whole playlist right down there. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Can you believe it? There has been a second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump's life. In today's English lesson, we are going to look at a news clip, and then we are going to discuss all of the difficult vocabulary they use, all of the English idioms, and of course, we will talk about all of those pesky English phrasal verbs. This happened on a golf course that Donald Trump was playing at, and there was a would-be assassin in the bushes. A would-be assassin is just another way to say somebody was trying to assassinate somebody. Now, I have made an English lesson on the first attempt at former President Donald Trump's life. If you would like to check that one out, I will leave a link to it at the end of this English lesson. Let's take a look at the clip. I have slowed it down just a little bit, and I have put the words on the screen.
What happened yesterday, you had a very sharp-eyed agent who spotted this rifle in the bushes, and a witness was key to how this unfolded as well.
So that agent was actually leapfrogging ahead of the president.
For each difficult term they use, I will have a picture for you. I will have an official definition, and I will use that term in a sentence. The first one they talked about is sharp-eyed. Sharp-eyed. Now, in that picture, I have a picture of a bird. Do you know what we call that bird in English? It is an owl. And of course, owls have to be sharp-eyed if they want to find food on the ground. What does sharp-eyed mean? It means someone who notices things very quickly. The people who are in charge of protecting the president or former presidents and a couple other people we will talk about later, they are called the Secret Service. And luckily for Donald Trump, there was a sharp-eyed Secret Service member on his team. Let's use that term in a sentence. A sharp-eyed security guard saw something unusual near the former president's car. Now, that is just an example sentence. Remember, former President Trump was playing golf. Oh boy. Already, we have a difficult one. Spotted. Now, the way it was used in the news clip was a verb. Spotted. What does that mean? To see or notice something. In the picture, that person is using a pair of binoculars to see better. What about a sentence using the verb spotted? The police officer spotted a suspicious person in the crowd before the attempt. Again, this is just an example sentence. A member of the Secret Security spotted the would-be assassin in the bushes. But spotted can also be an adjective describing something. In that picture, let me make it just a little bit bigger for you. There is a picture of a spotted leopard. Here is a sentence using spotted. You could call that leopard spotted because it has spots. Oh no, we haven't talked about what spots are. Well, in the picture, there is, I don't know, 10, 12 different spots in that picture. What is a spot? Well, it's a noun, and it is small marks or areas that look different from the rest of the surface. So in that picture, we have a white surface, a white background, but there are different colored spots. That leopard has black spots. Let's use spots in a sentence. And remember, just an example sentence, this really didn't happen. The police officer noticed dark spots on the ground where the attacker had been standing.
What happened yesterday, you had a very sharp-eyed agent who spotted this rifle in the bushes, and a witness was key to how this unfolded as well.
So that agent was actually leapfrogging ahead of the president?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's not going to get any easier when we talk about this next one, unfolded. I'm going to use it in two very different ways. In the news clip, they used it like this: when events happen or develop. Let's go back to the first attempt on President Trump's life. It happened a couple months ago. This sentence relates to that one. The first assassination attempt unfolded during the former president's speech, but the events for this second attempt unfolded in a different way. It just means a series of things happen in a row. But this is where it can get tricky, because the woman in the picture is holding an unfolded map. This is going to be hard to do with a microphone. I need two hands, but I am going to fold this piece of paper. Now I am going to unfold this piece of paper. Remember, when you see un in front of a verb, it means not or the opposite. In the picture is a pair of untied shoes. Now I am going to unfold this piece of paper. I hope that makes sense. Two very different ways to use the word unfolded. If you think this English lesson is helping you improve your English, do you mind hitting that like button? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe so you never miss another English lesson. Now, you may be thinking, 2 attempted assassinations on a president in the same year? That has never happened before. Well, Mr. Trump is a former president, but still, there actually was another president who has had 2 attempted assassinations in the same year. And his name was Gerald Ford. And this happened a long time ago in 1975, the same year that I was born. Yeah, a long time ago. Old man here. Let's read a little bit about this guy named Gerald Ford, one of our former presidents. We will also mention the name Squeaky Fromme. She is quite famous because she was a member of the Manson family. Maybe you know about Charlie Manson. I am going to read this. Feel free to follow along. Gerald Ford, the 38th president of the United States, survived 2 assassination attempts in 1975. The first attempt happened in September when a woman named Lynette Squeaky Fromme tried to shoot him in California, but her gun didn't go off. Just 17 days later, another woman named Sarah Jane Moore fired a shot at Ford, but she missed. Both women were arrested, and Ford was not hurt in either attack. These events made security around the president much tighter. So there is a super quick history about another president who had 2 attempted assassinations in the same year on him. If you would like to learn more about the assassination attempts on Gerald Ford's life in 1975, please let me know in the comments. I would love to do an English lesson about this. We can talk way more about Squeaky Fromme. She's quite interesting.
What happened yesterday, you had a very sharp-eyed agent who spotted this rifle in the bushes, and a witness was key to how this unfolded as well.
So that agent was actually leapfrogging ahead of the president. So the contingency, the mass contingency that stays with the president, his shift is around him, protecting him. You have that asset, that agent going ahead.
Okay, they mentioned leapfrogging ahead. What does that mean? To move quickly past others. Maybe a couple people are running a race together. One could leapfrog the other, meaning one goes ahead for a time and then maybe the other one goes ahead for a little while. Those two runners could be leapfrogging each other. So here is an example sentence using it like they used in the news clip. Security was leapfrogging ahead of the former president to spot any danger in front of him. There is that word spot again. This time it's used as a verb. Contingency. Security loves to use the word contingency. What does it mean? A backup plan in case something goes wrong. You might also hear contingency plan. The security team had a contingency plan in case of an attack on the former president.
So the contingency, the mass contingency that stays with the president, his shift is around him, protecting him. You have that asset, that agent going ahead. Truly, like for that agent to spot somebody in the bushes, to notice a rifle, and then also to take aim, because that individual was outside the fence. Even when you take aim, shooting is such an important thing in the U.S. Secret Service, because the idea is when you're going to shoot, it's probably going to be around a lot of people, because the president's always in a lot of people.
Asset. What is that? Security also loves to use the word asset. It means something or someone valuable or useful. The bodyguards were the most important asset in protecting the former president. I also like this example sentence. Reading books in English can be an asset to your English learning. Take aim. Take a look at that picture. I think it does a good job of showing what take aim means. Official definition: to point a weapon at someone. The attacker took aim at the former president from a hidden spot. Thankfully, that did not happen. President Trump was never seen by the would-be attacker. Thankfully, Secret Service saw the would-be assassin first. They took aim at the attacker, and that attacker fled. Fled is another way to say he ran away.
So for that agent to have that wherewithal to take that shot, and we are very fortunate that there was a witness. And that does beg the question of what kind of assets were outside of that area. We're looking at 300 to 500 yards.
To have the wherewithal. What does that mean? To have the ability or resources to do something. The quick thinking guard had the wherewithal to stop the attacker in time. I'm going to use to have the wherewithal when talking about the first assassination attempt on former President Trump's life. I can't believe he had the wherewithal to duck almost as soon as the first shots rang out. I don't think I would have the wherewithal to do that. Let's use it in a sentence right here. It's crazy to think that former President Trump had the wherewithal to duck when the first shots rang out. If you have been watching my English lessons about news stories, you already know the word duck and you know the phrasal verb rang out. Fortunate. It means lucky. Something good happens by chance. It was fortunate that the attack failed and no one was hurt. Begs the question. What does that term mean? Makes you wonder or ask something important. The attempt on the former president's life begs the question: how did the attacker
get so close? It's a great question. In the news clip, they said he was only about 300 or 500 feet away from where the president could have been playing golf. At minimum, what does that mean? The least amount possible. Let's use at minimum in a sentence. At minimum, security should be increased after the second attempt on his life. How about this? You should study your English every day for 20 minutes at minimum. It's another way to say the least amount.
So for that agent to have that wherewithal to take that shot, and we are very fortunate that there was a witness. And that does beg the question of what kind of assets were outside of that area. We're looking at 300 to 500 yards. That's about like 3 football fields at minimum. It's a far distance. Are there any law enforcement assets? Because that witness was there and got the license plates, they were only able to catch him at that point because he was driving through license plate readers on the highway.
License plates. What are those? Well, you can see from the picture what they are. The numbered metal plate on a car that shows its registration. Registration, a pretty big word there. We'll talk about it in a minute. Police checked the license plate of suspicious cars near the former president's location. That is just an example sentence. The police did not have to check the license plates. License plate readers did, and we'll talk about them in just a minute. But in the United States, every person driving a car needs to register their car. They need to have a car's registration right over there. It basically means you paid some money to the government and they are letting you drive your car. And this is handled by the state government, not the federal government. We've talked about state versus federal government in other English lessons. But when people pay that money to the government is supposed to use that money to help fix roads, things like that, to make a driver's life easier. But no, license plate readers. I didn't even know these things existed, but hey, if they help catch criminals, I'm all for it. I like it. What is a license plate reader? Well, that picture should give you a clue. Let's take a look at the official definition. Devices that can scan and read license plates. The license plate readers helped the police track down a car involved in the assassination attempt. Ooh, a phrasal verb in that sentence. Track down. It's another way native English speakers say to find, to look for.
Are there any law enforcement assets? Because that witness was there and got the license plates, they were only able to catch him at that point because he was driving through license plate readers on the highway, and that is really what helped catch him. So we're looking at something different now, not just that inner perimeter security that typically is what the Secret Service and law enforcement authorities were focusing on, but again, second incident, both times, long distances outside.
Inner perimeter. Perimeter. You might see that in math class, and it means the distance outside of a shape, like the lines outside that shape. Oh no, I just did my hand in a circle. That's something different. In English, we call that circumference, the distance around a circle. Security talks about perimeter all of the time. The inner perimeter is the safest part of a security detail. Here is the official definition. The closest or most protected area around something or someone. Only security and trusted staff were allowed inside the inner perimeter around the former president. Certainly, nobody with a gun should ever enter the inner perimeter. And the way it sounds, this would-be assassin was just outside of that inner perimeter. Typically, usually, or normally. If you saw my recent hotel English video, I used typical twice. I think I said, here is a look at a typical
American breakfast at a typical American hotel. But in that picture, I would not say that Americans typically eat that for breakfast. Most Americans don't typically eat rice for breakfast. Every other meal, like dinner and lunch, possibly, but not usually for breakfast. Let's take a look at a sentence using typically. Typically, the former president's security is very tight, but the attacker still got close. Let's use typically when talking about studying English. I typically study English for 1 hour a day. I am curious. How long do you typically study English for each day? 20 minutes? 30 minutes? 1 hour? More? And yes, I think watching YouTube videos like this does count as studying English.
And that is really what helped catch him. So we're looking at something different now. Not just that inner perimeter security that typically is what the Secret Service and law enforcement authorities were focusing on. But again, second incident, both times, long distances outside.
But he's played there many times, and they've probably had Secret Service and a perimeter set up many, many times. So what needs to be fixed right now?
More.
Yeah.
You need more.
Yeah.
You need more. We've got the UNGA coming up, United Nations General Assembly. A lot of people don't know. It's U.S. Secret Service that does all that protection. So all those foreign heads of state that are coming to the U.S., they get protection. A lot of people may wonder why. We don't want anybody getting assassinated on U.S. soil.
Oh boy, this is a tough one. This is an acronym. UNGA. UNGA. Each letter in UNGA represents a longer word. UNGA, United Nations General Assembly. What is it? It's where world leaders meet. And this happens on U.S. soil. As the person said in the newscast, she used to work for the Secret Service. And yes, one of the duties or one of the jobs of Secret Service is to protect world leaders who visit the United States. Let's take a look at an example sentence using UNGA. This is not true. It's just an example. The assassination attempt happened just days before the former president was supposed to speak at UNGA. He is not speaking there, but UNGA is taking place in a couple weeks from now, towards the end of September. Just in case you don't know what United Nations is in English, there is their symbol. You probably call it something different in your first language. The headquarters of the United Nations is in New York. World leaders often come there to speak. And when they do, the Secret Service protects them. So why do we use acronyms? Just because it's easier to say. Saying United Nations General Assembly can be a mouthful. In other words, it can be hard to say, which is why we say UNGA. She also mentioned foreign heads of state. What does that mean? Right at the bottom, leaders of other countries. I wonder how many world leaders you can name in that picture. I made that picture, so I can name all four. But if I didn't make that picture, I don't know. Maybe I could name 3. Let's use foreign heads of state in a sentence. Many foreign heads of state expressed concern after hearing about the attempt on the former president's life. Watching the news in English is a great way to improve your English. Unfortunately, some of the terms and English phrasal verbs they use in the news can be super difficult. Today, we are going to watch a news clip about a second assassination attempt against former President Trump. Now, I have already made one English lesson about this. This English lesson is going to talk more about the suspect. And we will also hear from the Secret Service. Those are the people who are in charge of protecting former President Trump. And if you struggle with English phrasal verbs, don't worry, this English lesson is going to be full of them. Before we get into the clip, if you don't mind, please hit that like button so other people find the English lesson. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe so you never miss another English lesson.
Record movement off the record. And the president wasn't even really supposed to go there. It was not on his official schedule.
In the news clip, they used the term off the record. What does that mean? Information shared that should not be made public. And when you hear public, just think like everybody knows. A public place is a place where everybody can go. Private is the opposite of public. So they said most people should not know where the president was going to be because it was off the record. For each of these difficult terms, I will have a picture for you. I will have an official definition, and I will also use it in a sentence. The reporter was told off the record about a secret plan to protect Trump after the second assassination attempt.
Record movement off the record. And the president wasn't even really supposed to go there. It was not on his official schedule.
In regards to the incident at Trump International, with me is the U.S. Attorney.
Now at 6, a new explanation from the Secret Service following an apparent second assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump.
Yes, we will be talking a lot about English phrasal verbs, but we will also be talking a lot about legal terms in English. And this is the first one, apparent. Apparent. There are a couple different ways to use apparent in English, but in the news clip, they used it like this: seeming to be true or real, but not definitely known. They will use this term a lot before someone has been convicted of a crime. We will talk more about some of these terms later, but in the United States, everyone is presumed innocent until found guilty. So, I mean, we're pretty sure that the suspect did shoot at President Trump, but until he goes to trial and everybody hears all of the evidence or proof, we say that he didn't do it until he has been found guilty in court. So it's another way to say we're pretty sure he did this. He just hasn't gone to court yet. The apparent assassin was captured just down the road on a Florida highway.
Now at 6, a new explanation from the Secret Service following an apparent second assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump.
Keep walking! I keep that ball.
Then the moment deputies arrested the suspect on a Florida highway. This evening, we're learning more about that suspect and seeing the moment he was placed in handcuffs.
And the Secret Service is explaining more about their response and when agents spotted the accused gunman.
We have a lot of names for police officers in English. We are going to talk about 2 of them in this English lesson, but deputies, what is it? It's pretty much another name for police officers. The deputies were called to investigate the location where the suspect was last seen. And he was last seen in some bushes on the golf course. Ooh, this one is going to be tricky because we have 2 different words. They look alike, they have different meanings, and they are pronounced differently. Let's talk about the noun form first. A suspect. Yes, it's a person. What is a suspect? It's a person who might have committed a crime. The suspect in the assassination attempt on Trump was quickly identified by law enforcement. We will talk about law enforcement a little later. The man in the picture is a suspect. They suspect he did something bad. So here is the other word that looks a lot like the last word, but we say it differently. Suspect, suspect. Suspect, suspect. Can you hear the difference? What does suspect mean? Well, it's a verb, and it means to think someone might be guilty of a crime. So I suspect that suspect might have committed a crime. Here is a sentence using the verb suspect. Deputies suspect that the man was in the bushes for many hours, just waiting for Trump.
Then the moment deputies arrested the suspect on a Florida highway. This evening, we're learning more about that suspect and seeing the moment he was placed in handcuffs.
And the Secret Service is explaining more about their response and when agents spotted the accused gunman.
And let's begin with Kim, who has the latest developments from law enforcement. Kim, what are they saying?
Yeah, well, that news conference just wrapped up about an hour ago.
Accused can be a verb and it can be a noun. We are going to talk about the noun here. The accused. Who are they? A person or group who is believed to have done something wrong. So in the picture, we could say the accused had to appear in court. That is the person accused of a crime. There, I used it as a verb. In the sentence, I'm going to use it as an adjective. Are you confused yet? I hope not. In the sentence, it's used as an adjective. The accused man was arrested after allegedly planning another attack on Trump. That is just an example sentence that didn't really happen, but we will talk about allegedly a little later. It's another one of those legal terms news stations like to use. And here is a sentence using it as a verb. The suspect was accused of trying to kill the former president. You have seen law enforcement in a sentence before. Let's talk about what exactly it is. It's basically another name for the police. The definition: police or other government officials who make sure laws are followed. And we will talk about the verb enforce in just a minute. Law enforcement officials worked around the clock to prevent further threats to Trump. And I put around the clock in quotation marks just in case you didn't know what that means. But it basically means they never stopped working. If you work around the clock, you never get a break. Here is the verb enforce, and it will really help you understand law enforcement just in case you were struggling with it. Enforce is a verb meaning to make sure rules or laws are followed. The Secret Service. We talked a lot about them in the last English lesson. The Secret Service enforced better security rules after the second assassination attempt.
And let's begin with Kim, who has the latest developments from law enforcement. Kim, what are they saying?
Yeah, well, that news conference just wrapped up about an hour ago. We heard from several representatives of several different law enforcement agencies. We heard from the FBI, the sheriff of Palm Beach County, but we mainly heard from the Secret Service.
All right. They used another English phrasal verb in the news clip, wrapped up. Native English speakers love to use English phrasal verbs, right? Well, wrapped up just means to finish something or to complete something. Yeah, the definition right down there, finished or completed. If you look at the picture, it looks like they just wrapped up a deal to buy a house. Let's put the sentence on the screen. They wrapped up the deal to buy the house. Here is an example sentence more to do with the crime that was committed in the news clip. The investigation was wrapped up after the suspect was caught. How about this really long word? Representatives. 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 What are those? Those are people who act or speak for others, especially in government. Usually, people in government are very busy, so they can't often talk to reporters. Their representatives will talk for them. How about this sentence? Trump's representatives assured the public that he was safe following the attempt on his life. Do you know that word? Attempt? It means when you try something. So that suspect attempted to assassinate the former president. This happened in Palm Beach County, and I thought I could teach you a couple things using Palm Beach County. First, let's talk about what Palm Beach County is. It's a location in Florida where Trump lives. The suspect was arrested in Palm Beach County, not far from Trump's residence. Residence is just a fancy way to say he lives there. It's where somebody lives. But county might be new for you. So we have states, there are 50 of them, but we have counties. Each state has counties. They are smaller than states. Cities are smaller than counties, and towns are smaller than cities. The country has 50 states. My state has 16 counties and hundreds of cities and towns. But what about Palm? Palm. There's an L in there. You barely pronounce the L. Palm. You can have a palm tree, which is why Palm Beach is named Palm Beach, because it has a lot of palm trees. But that part of your hand, like that part right there, we also call that your palm in English. Love it. More English phrasal verbs. If you look in the picture, that person is literally stepping up steps. But of course, when it comes to English phrasal verbs, we have to make it a little harder. Stepped up means increased or improved, to make something better. Security around Trump stepped up big time after the second assassination attempt. Big time is another way to say a lot. Hey, do you like pizza? Oh yeah, big time. I love pizza. And there's a picture that I hope helps you understand what stepped up means. How about this? When it comes to English learning. Oh yeah, last week I stepped up my English learning. Instead of studying for 20 minutes a day, I studied for an hour. Fiercely defended. Look at that picture. I believe that lion would fiercely defend those cubs if anything bad happened. Cubs are just what we call baby lions. But what's the official definition for fiercely defended? It means protected with strong effort. Defend, protect, basically mean the same thing. The Secret Service fiercely defended Trump, ensuring no harm would come to him.
Now, the Secret Service fiercely defended their protection of former President Donald Trump Sunday, saying that they are at the highest level of protection for the former president. We heard from Ron Rowe, who is the acting director of the Secret Service. He says they ramped up protection of Mr. Trump after the July assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. We also learned new information about the suspect, 58-year-old Ryan Routh. Cell phone data shows that the suspect was in the area of the golf course 12 hours before the incident.
Here's a mouthful. It's a lot to say. But in the news clip, they said acting director of the Secret Service. There's a picture of that man. And what does that mean, acting director? It's the person temporarily in charge of the Secret Service. Is that a new word for you? Temporarily. It means not permanent. We will talk about permanent in just a minute. The acting director of the Secret Service spoke to the press after the second attempt. Do you know why he's the acting director of the Secret Service? The director of the Secret Service got fired after the first assassination attempt on Trump. So temporary means just for a short time. Permanent means forever. So in English, we have something called permanent markers. If you write on a piece of paper with a permanent marker, that ink will never come off. It will never fade. It will always be there. Here we go. More English phrasal verbs. Ramped up. Ramped up. Let's first talk about what a ramp is. In the picture, that's a ramp. It's really useful for people who are in wheelchairs. It's almost impossible if you are in a wheelchair to go up steps, so a ramp makes it a lot easier. But of course, ramped up really has little to do with ramps. It means work effort was increased. You worked a little harder. Something got better. Let's go back to you learning English. Maybe last week instead of learning English for 20 minutes, you ramped up your studies and studied for an hour. Sounds a lot like another sentence we talked about earlier. Law enforcement ramped up their efforts to find the suspect behind the assassination attempt.
Yeah, well, that news conference just wrapped up about an hour ago. We heard from several representatives of several different law enforcement agencies. We heard from the FBI, the sheriff of Palm Beach County, but we mainly heard from the Secret Service, who says that they have stepped up their protection of the former president. Now, the Secret Service fiercely defended their protection of former President Donald Trump Sunday, saying that they are at the highest level of protection for the former president. We heard from Ron Rowe, who is the acting director of the Secret Service. He says they ramped up protection of Mr. Trump after the July assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. We also learned new information about the suspect, 58-year-old Ryan Routh. Cell phone data shows that the suspect was in the area of the golf course 12 hours before the incident. Officials say it was around 1:30 yesterday afternoon when he allegedly pointed an AK-47 style rifle with a scope in the direction of former President Trump, who was about 400 yards away.
I mentioned allegedly earlier in the lesson. Let's talk about what it means. Said to have happened, but not proven yet. News reporters will often say allegedly, again, because a suspect, until they go to court, they have not been proven guilty. So it's a legal thing to say, well, this allegedly happened. It's a good way not to get sued. It's a good way to protect yourself. You can pretty much say almost anything happened as long as you say it allegedly happened. The suspect allegedly tried to hire someone to carry out the assassination. Not true. Just an example sentence. English phrasal verb there, carry out. It just means to do something. Scope. It's a part of a gun. It's a device on a gun that helps you aim more accurately, so you get a better shot. Investigators found a rifle with a scope that may have been used in the assassination attempt on Trump.
Investigators also mentioned that after digging into the suspect's background, they say he had an active online presence and said that he wanted to recruit Afghan soldiers to fight in Ukraine.
Digging in. Another English phrasal verb. What does it mean? Looking for more information or researching carefully. The police are digging in to find out more about the second attempt to harm Trump. Now we are going to use recruit as a verb and recruit as a noun. And guess what? These two are pronounced the same way, not like suspect and suspect. So for recruit as a verb, something you do, that means to find and convince people to join a group or a cause. If a student in high school is really smart, really good, colleges will recruit them. Those colleges will want them to come to their school. They may offer scholarships. Let's look at that picture. It looks like the U.S. Navy is trying to recruit people to join the Navy. Let's look at an example sentence. This didn't really happen, but the suspect tried to recruit others to help with the assassination plot. No, he tried to recruit people in Afghanistan to go fight in Ukraine. I don't know what the connection is there. Something tells me this suspect might be a little crazy. Wait, no. I don't want to get sued. Let me say the suspect is allegedly crazy. Recruit can also be a noun. It's a person being recruited. Let's look at the official definition. A new person who has joined a group or a cause. New people to join the military could be called recruits. This is not true. Another example sentence using recruit. The recruit was arrested after being connected to the assassination attempt on Trump.
Some call the U.S. president the most powerful person in the world, and that is true to a point. The American president also needs money, just like everybody else, and one of the reasons President Joe Biden is not running for re-election is because of money. In today's English lesson, we are going to talk about one person who decided to stop giving money and forcing President Biden out of the race. Before we get into the English lesson, if you don't mind hitting that like button, it will help others find this English lesson. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe so you never miss another English lesson. In today's English lesson, we are going to watch a news clip involving an actor named George Clooney. This man has a lot of money. He's been in Hollywood for many years. One of his first big acting jobs was on the TV show called ER. He's also been in the movie Ocean's 11, and he was nominated for an Oscar for his acting job in the movie Gravity. He is a big supporter of the Democratic Party, which is also the same party that Joe Biden belongs to. After Biden's horrible performance in the debate against former President Trump back in June, George Clooney was one of many people in Hollywood and around the country that said maybe President Biden shouldn't run again. And he said publicly that he would no longer donate money to his re-election campaign. In this clip, we'll see George Clooney saying nicer things about Joe Biden. And then we will come back and talk about some of the most difficult things that were said in the news clip.
Praise for the president today. Mega Democratic Party fundraiser George Clooney, who wrote a July New York Times op-ed calling for Biden to drop out of the race, speaking out about it for the first time.
Praise. You heard them say praise in the news clip. What does that mean? To say good things about someone or something. Right now, I would like to give you some praise because you are watching this English lesson, trying to improve your English. And I would also like to thank you because there are so many good English teachers on YouTube and you chose me. Thanks so much. For each of these difficult terms, I will have a picture that I hope helps you understand what that word means. And I will also have an example sentence. Right at the bottom, George Clooney praised President Biden for making smart decisions. And let's face it, that smart decision was dropping out of the presidential race. I do have an English lesson about President Biden dropping out. I will leave a link to it at the end of this lesson. Mega fundraiser. We are going to use this in two different ways. When you see mega in English, think like big. When you see fundraiser, think something about raising money or raising funds. Funds is another way to say money. Some politicians will have fundraisers. Maybe they are mega fundraisers, but they help pay for the campaign. The official definition: a very big event where people give money to support a cause or a person. Maybe a politician will host a fancy dinner, charge a lot of money for people to eat. That way they get more money for their campaign. George Clooney helped with a mega fundraiser to support President Biden's campaign. Yeah, the last time he did, back in 2020. This time, he said no. They didn't mention this in the news clip, but another very common type of fundraiser is a bake sale. Sometimes there are bake sales at my school to raise money for school clubs. Teachers and parents will get together. They will bake muffins, cookies, cakes, anything that they can sell to help raise money. But a mega fundraiser can also be a person who raises money. In that picture, you will see George Clooney. He is on the left. And in the middle is an actor named Leonardo DiCaprio. And all the way to the right is a woman named Oprah Winfrey. In a few days, I will have an English lesson about Oprah Winfrey interviewing Kamala Harris. Let's use mega fundraiser as a person in a sentence. George Clooney became a mega fundraiser for President Biden. helping to collect millions. Again, in 2020. Not this year. Remember, mega means big or large, but MAGA is different. Very different. It means make America great again. Maybe you have seen former President Trump wearing this hat, make America great again. You might hear that red hat called a MAGA hat. Republicans love MAGA hats. Democrats hate them. We have mentioned funds before. There is a D in there. I'm not sure if I pronounce it or any other native English speakers pronounce it, but funds means money. Money that is collected or saved for a special purpose. My wife Jamie and I have a going out to eat fund. I guess when it's singular, we do pronounce the D. Funds, it's hard to get that D in there. But yeah, our going out to eat fund is when we save money so we can go out to eat at a restaurant. Here is a sentence using funds. The funds raised at the event were to support President Biden's re-election until they weren't, until they pushed him out, and Kamala Harris is now running for president, and she gets all of the money that was raised for President Biden. An op-ed. They mentioned that in the news report. What is an op-ed? An article in a newspaper where someone shares their opinion. Let's take a look at an example sentence that was big news right before President Biden dropped out of the race. George Clooney wrote an op-ed in a newspaper about why he thinks President Biden is too old to run for re-election.
Praise for the president today. Mega Democratic Party fundraiser George Clooney, who wrote a July New York Times op-ed calling for Biden to drop out of the race, speaking out about it for the first time.
The person who should be applauded is the president who did the most selfless thing that anybody's done since George Washington.
Speaking out. English phrasal verb. You gotta love those, right? What does that mean when somebody is speaking out? That means when somebody publicly says what they think about something important. George Clooney was speaking out about his concerns that President Biden might be too old to run for president. That is just an example. In the news clip, you see George Clooney praising President Biden for dropping out of the race. Applauded. Applauded. What does that mean? It's a verb. To show approval or praise for someone's actions. I applaud you for sticking with this English lesson, for continuing to watch this English lesson. I hope your English is improving with every second you watch this video. Many people applauded George Clooney for supporting President Biden after he praised him. Here is a little bonus. The verb and the noun of the same word sound very different. Applauded is a verb, but applause is a noun. An actor can receive applause if they do a good job. Selfless. Selfless. Sometimes you will hear selfish, and that is when somebody only thinks of themselves. Selfless is the opposite. It's when someone cares more about helping others than themselves. Take a look at that picture. Those boys are collecting garbage. That is a very selfless act. Dumping garbage on the ground is a very selfish act. You don't care about the environment. You don't care about what others think. George Clooney said that President Biden's decisions are selfless because they help the country, not just himself. Just a small history lesson. George Clooney said that President Biden's decision not to run for president again was the most selfless act since George Washington. George Washington was our first president. He ran for 2 terms. He served a total of 8 years as president, and then he decided, you know what? I don't want to be president anymore. Somebody else should be president. And before George Washington, that didn't happen often. When someone was in charge or the most powerful person in a country, they often did not want to give up that power. To be honest, George Washington never wanted to be president in the first place, so he was very happy to give up the power. I think he just wanted to sit on his farm and grow old, no longer be in public life. At the end of that news clip is another one about the vice presidential nominee, Tim Walz. He is running on the same ticket as Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris for president, Tim Walz for vice president.
The person who should be applauded is the president who did the most selfless thing that anybody's done since George Washington.
Today, Minnesota Governor and Democratic VP nominee Tim Walz in a t-shirt and hat, serving ice cream at the Minnesota State Fair.
It's exciting. I think people are seeing that we're getting to talk about Minnesota across the country, talk about the economy here, talk about things like the State Fair, talk about agriculture.
And it gives me a chance to introduce you to one of our 50 states called Minnesota, and we will also talk about fair season that happens every year in the United States during the fall or autumn. A lot of states have a state fair. Let's read about what the Minnesota State Fair is like, and this is like almost every other state fair. The Minnesota State Fair is a big event every year. It's one of the largest fairs in the United States. People enjoy rides, games, and lots of food. There are contests for animals like cows and pigs, and people show their cooking and art skills. You can also learn about farming and see animals up close. The fair is a fun time for everyone. And just in case you don't know where Minnesota is, it is in the red, bordering Canada. Every year, Jamie and I will go to our state fair. It's not called the Maine State Fair. It's named after a town instead. It's called the Fryeburg Fair, and I do have an English lesson about it if you would like to check out and see what a fair looks like and learn a little English along the way. The news clip mentioned economy. In the news, you will see the economy mentioned often. So just in case you don't know what economy is, it means how money is made and used in a place. The U.S. state with the biggest economy is, any guesses? It's California. Here is a sentence using Tim Walz and economy. Tim Walz said the Minnesota State Fair helps the economy because it brings in a lot of money. Agriculture. Agriculture. This might be tough. What is agriculture? Farming. Like growing crops and raising animals. Crops is just another way to say like plants that people eat. Corn is a type of crop.
I really like cone. Ever since I was told that cone was real, it tasted good.
Tim Walz said the fair is a great place to learn about agriculture because farmers show their animals and crops. Thank you so much for clicking on this English lesson. I know there are a lot of great English teachers on YouTube, and you chose to watch me, so thank you so much. Watching the news in English is a great way to improve your English. Unfortunately, people in the news use really big words. They will use those pesky English phrasal verbs. So in this English lesson, we will watch a news clip together, and then I will come back and explain all of the difficult vocabulary they use. And in the news clip, they are going to talk about a woman named Oprah Winfrey. She interviewed Kamala Harris. As you may know, Kamala Harris is running for president here in the United States. And a big topic of this news story is going to be abortion. If you have seen some of the other English lessons I have done on the news here in the United States, you will see that I have mentioned abortion quite a few times. I will leave a link to another English lesson at the end of this one where we talk more about abortion.
It's a big topic in this presidential race. On my YouTube channel, I put up a poll asking how many people know who Oprah Winfrey is. It turns out about 2/3 know who Oprah Winfrey is. There is 1/3 of the people who watch this channel who don't know who she is. So let's take a look at a paragraph that talks about Oprah Winfrey. If you already know who she is, this will at least give you practice with reading your English. Who is Oprah Winfrey? Oprah Winfrey is a famous American talk show host, actress, and businesswoman. She became well known for her talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, where she interviewed many important people. Oprah is also known for helping people and giving back to her community. Over the years, she has become a billionaire. Yeah, so in the United States, Oprah Winfrey is so famous, most people just know her by her first name, Oprah. If you remember one of our other presidents, Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey interviewed him too. In the news clip we watch later, they are going to mention that interview, but they do not mention the president. That president was Barack Obama. Unfortunately, they are going to mention a woman who died because of some new abortion laws in the southern part of the United States. We'll talk about the state of Georgia and also the state of North Carolina. But let's first talk about who Amber Thurman is. Amber Thurman was, unfortunately, she has passed away. Amber Thurman was a 28-year-old mother from Georgia who died in 2022 due to problems from an abortion. She was pregnant with twins and traveled to North Carolina to get an abortion because of tough laws in Georgia. Amber experienced problems after taking abortion pills, and her death was later determined to be preventable if she had received the necessary medical care sooner. And we will talk about some of those difficult vocabulary words a little later on in the English lesson, like preventable. Just in case you don't know where the states of Georgia and North Carolina are located, I have this map for you. She lived in Georgia but had to drive to North Carolina. It is quite a long drive, probably a few hours, and you can see there is a state in between called South Carolina. With all of that background knowledge now, let's take a look at that news clip.
Can Oprah Winfrey elevate another candidate to the White House? Well, tonight, the billionaire appeared with Kamala Harris to help make that happen. The two co-hosted a campaign event in Michigan called Unite for America, and at one point, things got emotional.
They used the verb elevate in the news clip. Let's talk about what that is. To lift or raise something to a higher position. Think of an elevator in English. It might bring you from the first floor to the second floor. Kamala Harris wants to elevate the importance of healthcare for women. I forgot to mention, for each of these difficult words or terms, I'll have a picture, I will have the official definition, and I will use it in a sentence. Co-host. What does that mean? Co-host. Well, a host is like in charge of an interview, maybe a television show. In the news clip, we see a host. They are the one talking about the news. Oprah Winfrey was once the host of her own talk show. Co-host? That means there are at least two people involved. A co-host is a person who shares hosting duties with another person. Oprah often worked with a co-host during her TV shows to discuss important topics. That is just an example sentence. She pretty much hosted that show on her own. At my school, some teachers will co-teach. That means there is one classroom with two teachers. Would you mind hitting that like button so other people can find this English lesson? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe so you never miss another English lesson. Also, if you're looking for bonus English lessons, in the description, I have left a link so you can become a channel member. I release at least one bonus English lesson a week. There are over 200 bonus English lessons for members right now. Emotional. Do you know emotions in English? It's usually one of the first things people learn when they are studying English. Sadness, happiness, anger, feelings, emotions, they're pretty much the same thing. What is the official definition for emotional? Showing strong feelings. Emotional is an adjective. It can describe people. This was really sad. The interview with Amber's mother was very emotional as she talked about her daughter's preventable death. Preventable. We will talk about that.
Can Oprah Winfrey elevate another candidate to the White House? Well, tonight, the billionaire appeared with Kamala Harris to help make that happen. The two co-hosted a campaign event in Michigan called Unite for America. And at one point, things got emotional when the family of a woman whose death is linked to abortion restrictions in Georgia came face to face with Harris. Listen to this.
You're looking at a mother that is broken. The worst pain ever that a mother, that a parent could ever feel. Her father and myself and the family, you're looking at it.
Restrictions. It's a noun. The verb is restrict. What are restrictions? Rules or laws that limit what people can do. Amber faced serious restrictions when trying to get an abortion in Georgia. I have talked about this in many other English lessons, but just in case you don't know, Democrats or the party that Kamala Harris is for, they do believe in abortions. They believe in a woman's right to choose to have an abortion. Former President Trump's party, the Republicans, they want to limit or restrict abortions in the United States. Now that we've talked about what emotional is, let's talk about emotionally broken. Emotionally is an adverb. It describes verbs, other adjectives, adverbs. So emotionally here is the adverb, broken is the adjective. Emotionally broken means feeling deeply sad or hurt. Amber's family was emotionally broken after her death.
You're looking at a mother that is broken. The worst pain ever.
Amber's mom shared with me that the word over and over again in her mind is preventable. These abortion bans have been passed that criminalize healthcare providers. In a couple of states, prison for life, Oprah.
I have used the word preventable several times in this English lesson. Let's get the official definition. Something that could have been stopped from happening. Prevent is the verb, preventable is the adjective. Amber's death was preventable if she had received medical care earlier. Preventable deaths are always sad because it could have been stopped. Criminalize, criminalize, not easy to say. If you know what a criminal is, this word won't be too bad. Criminal is a noun. Criminalize is a verb, meaning to make something illegal. The new laws criminalize certain medical procedures, making it harder for doctors to help patients like Amber. I never give my opinion in these English lessons. I don't think it's right to do, but it just sounds crazy to me that doctors could have saved Amber's life, but there were laws preventing them from helping her. What do you think? Please let me know your opinion in the comments. In the news clip, they said healthcare providers. What are those? If you know doctors and nurses,
you know healthcare providers. Right at the bottom, people like doctors and nurses who heal people, make them feel better. The healthcare providers were afraid to perform the procedure due to legal risks. Yeah, if the doctors helped Amber, they might go to jail. They might have to pay a fine.
Amber's mom shared with me that the word over and over again in her mind is preventable. These abortion bans have been passed that criminalize healthcare providers. In a couple of states, prison for life, Oprah. Prison for life in a couple of states for a doctor or nurse who provides health care.
That was one of the most emotional moments from this event. Oprah was crying. I mean, many people in the audience were crying. And it really took me back, I mean, obviously, to the Oprah Winfrey that everyone had in their living rooms for, decades.
The host used the term "took me back." What does that mean? To make someone remember something from the past. She said seeing Oprah Winfrey on stage again took her back to her childhood. The same is true for me. My mother used to watch Oprah every afternoon after I got home from school. Kamala said the tragic story of Amber took her back to other cases she had heard. Just an example sentence, she never said that in the interview. Effective. What does that mean? It means something that works well. Take a look at that picture. That looks like an effective way to study English. It looks like a quiet area. It looks like it is well lit. There are plenty of lights around. Yeah, I think that would be an effective way to learn English. What about a sentence using effective? The medical care was not effective enough to save Amber's life. Okay, stripping has quite a few different meanings in English, but we are going to talk about stripping away, which means taking something away. The new laws are stripping women of their right to health care.
Prison for life in a couple of states for a doctor or nurse who provides health care.
That was one of the most emotional moments from this event. Oprah was crying. I mean, many people in the audience were crying. And it really took me back, I mean, obviously, to the Oprah Winfrey that everyone had in their living rooms for, decades. Will this be effective?
Well, I think the abortion issue is effective. Whether Oprah is the person that brings it to us, Kamala Harris is the person that brings it to us. The thing is, stripping women of their rights in this country was always inevitably going to lead to death.
I don't like the story we are hearing today about Amber, but I love this word, inevitable. Inevitable. What does that mean? Something that is certain to happen. Without proper care, Amber's death was inevitable. It was going to happen. She needed help. She didn't get that help. For our picture, I have what we call a robot in English, and I think that it is inevitable that robots will be taking more and more jobs from humans. You could also leave that in the comments. Do you think robots will inevitably take over our jobs?
Of that. The doctors knew exactly what to do when she arrived at the hospital, and they waited 20 hours to do the necessary DNC, and she died because they waited too long. It's not that they didn't know what to do. It's not that there was a crisis. It was a completely, as her mother said, preventable death.
I am not going to lie. This was a new term for me. I had never heard of a necessary DNC. What is it? A medical procedure to remove tissue from the uterus. I'm not an expert on the body parts of women, but uterus is something that women have and men do not. It involves babies. I don't know exactly what a uterus is. I know I don't have one, but I know that we have an example sentence using necessary DNC. A necessary DNC could have saved Amber's life if performed earlier.
And that happens when you take people's rights from them and you say all of this fits into this one tank, when it doesn't. Our healthcare is our bodies, it's our lives, it's our livelihood.
I'll say it again. Super, super sad. Fits in one tank. This is not a common saying that we have in English, but since the news reporter used it, I will talk about it. We also have a phrase in English called one size fits all. It has to do with clothing. Like the shirt I'm wearing is not one size fits all. It would be too big for people who are smaller than me, and people who are larger than me, this shirt would be too small. You might see some hats as one size fits all, but it should really be called one size fits most, because no article of clothing fits everyone. So let me use fits in one tank in a sentence, and I hope that helps you with the meaning. Laws like this are dangerous because they assume every situation fits in this one tank. In other words, maybe there should be more options for these healthcare providers. That is what the news reporter is saying. But I don't feel too bad for not knowing exactly what SE cup means. That's the name of the lady talking about fits in one tank, because I think other people on the panel are also confused. They have a little laugh about it.
Quite frankly, it's an economic issue. I don't know why we keep separating the economy from abortion. How many people are sitting at your kitchen table is a kitchen table issue. So abortion is center. Whether Oprah brings it to us or not, abortion will be center to this
These
election.
events are, part of a strategy that the Harris campaign is putting out there, which is to largely avoid doing interviews. They're not necessarily settings that where she shines. So they're doing this instead.
Quite frankly, native English speakers love to say this. Quite frankly, it's another way to say you are going to be honest with someone. The definition: to be honest and direct. Quite frankly, I think this English lesson is helping you improve your English. At least I hope so. Here is a sentence using quite frankly. Kamala said that, quite frankly, the abortion restrictions are harming women. Center. Center. This is another way to say the most important part. Women's healthcare should be at the center of the conversation. If you look at a map of the United States, New York City is not in the middle or the center of the country, but it is at the center when it comes to American business. It's a very important city for business. Lots of money changes hands in New York City. Putting it out there. Putting it out there. What does that mean? To share an opinion or fact openly to the public. Maybe it is something you might be a little nervous about sharing. You can say, hey, I'm just going to put it out there. I think pineapple goes on pizza. But let's use it in an example sentence. Kamala is putting it out there that abortion restrictions are dangerous. Yeah, not everybody in this country is going to agree with that. In the news report, they talked about this is where Kamala shines. You may have heard of the sun shining. It has something to do with light. But in this case, it's a little different. It means where someone does their best work. Kamala Harris shines when she talks about protecting women's rights.
This is a great event, and it's good for her. And listen, especially with Oprah and an Oprah audience, this is really, really important for Kamala Harris, because Donald Trump has every base voter he's going to get. She does not have every base voter she can get, and she's needs about 10 points more black voters in places like Georgia to be where she needs to be to win these swing states.
Voters. Base voters. What are those? If you take a look at the picture, you can see there are Americans standing in line waiting to cast their vote. Probably some in that picture will be voting for Kamala Harris for president, and others will be voting for Donald Trump. But base voters, is a group of people who strongly support a political party. So no matter what happens in the race, no matter what the candidates say, they are always going to vote either Democrat or Republican. They are the type of voters a candidate can count on. The opposite might be undecided voters. They don't know who they are going to vote for yet. Let's look at a sentence using base voters. The new laws appeal to the base voters who are against abortion. Appeal, that means like they really like. You could also have something called swing voters. Well, they mention swing states. It's almost the same. What is a swing state? It's a state where either political party could win an election. Sometimes that state votes Democrat, other times that state votes Republican. The topic of abortion is important in many swing states during elections. Hello, and welcome to another English lesson. If this is your first time here, my name is Brent. I have been teaching English in the United States for over 20 years. And in today's English lesson, we are going to learn difficult vocabulary words, some idioms, and those pesky English phrasal verbs as we watch a clip from a recent news story. And this news story is talking about how the would-be assassin who tried to kill President Trump left behind a lot of evidence. And I don't know if there is another way to say it, but this man seems like he is nuts, like he's crazy, like he has lost his mind. I will play a short clip of the news. That clip will have the subtitles right on the screen, and I slowed it down just a little bit so you will be able to understand it a little better. Let's go right to that clip now.
The Justice Department says that suspect left behind a letter detailing the plan. Meanwhile, the suspect is back in court today for a detention hearing.
For each of the difficult terms that are said in that news clip, I will have a picture that will help you understand the meaning. I will have an official definition, and I will use that term in a sentence. Evidence. Let's talk about that one first. It doesn't say evidence anywhere in the news clip, but I think we should understand that before we talk about anything else. What is evidence? It's information that helps prove if something is true or false. And take a look at that picture. It looks like some detectives or some of the authorities are looking over a few pieces of evidence. How about an example sentence using evidence? The investigators found more evidence that shows the suspect planned to harm the president. Justice Department. In the picture, you can see I have an abbreviation. An abbreviation is when you shorten a really long word. You often will put a period at the end of that word. So DEPT literally means department. Well, what is the Justice Department? It's part of the government that is responsible for enforcing laws. If you are in trouble with the Justice Department, you did something really bad. Maybe you tried to assassinate a former president of the United States. Here is a sentence using the Justice Department. The Justice Department is working to gather all the evidence in the case against Ryan Wesley Ruth, the man who tried to hurt Trump. A lot of times in the United States, when somebody does something really bad, they will use their first name and their last name, but they will also include the middle name just in case there are some other Ryan Ruths out there. Those Ryans can say, no, it's not me. My middle name is not Wesley. Great phrasal verb here. One of those pesky phrasal verbs. I did get a comment a couple days ago asking me why do I keep saying pesky when I talk about English phrasal verbs. Well, pesky means something that bothers you. It's not a big deal It's just like they're always trying to bring you down. They're always trying to hurt you. If you go camping, you might be bothered by some pesky flies. And that's what I think English phrasal verbs are to English learners. They're like those little pesky flies that you want to shoo away. What does left behind mean? To forget or not take something with you. It doesn't happen often, but a couple times when I have visited a restaurant, I left behind my phone. I had to go back and get it. If you take a look at that picture, it looks like somebody is mowing their lawn with a lawnmower and somebody left behind their little rabbit. It looks like a stuffed animal, not a real rabbit. You might also hear that called a bunny. Bunny and rabbits are the same thing. You might even hear bunny rabbit. How about a sentence using the phrasal verb left behind? The suspect left behind a letter that showed his plan to attack Trump.
The Justice Department says that suspect left behind a letter detailing the plan. Meanwhile, the suspect is back in court today for a detention hearing.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, that detention hearing you just mentioned is still underway here inside the federal courthouse in West Palm Beach.
Detailing. It means describing something carefully and completely. In that picture, somebody is detailing a car. They are cleaning every little space of that car. It looks like they are using some kind of brush to clean out an air vent. It can be very expensive if you want your car detailed. It's a very thorough cleaning. The report is detailing all the steps the suspect took to prepare for the assassination. Detention hearing. Anytime you hear detention, think somebody is in a place where they cannot leave. Sometimes, if my students are naughty in the classroom, they might get a detention. That means they have to stay after school for a little while as punishment. If you commit a crime, you might be held in a jail cell. You have been detained. It's part of the same word, detention. But what is a detention hearing? You might think hearing as in sound your ear hears, but this is different. Hearing in this case is like a meeting. What is the official definition? A court meeting to decide if someone should stay in jail before their trial. We have laws in this country where everyone is thought to be innocent, like they didn't do something, until they are proven guilty in a trial. If the crime is not too bad, you might get arrested and then they might let you go until your trial. But if someone tries to assassinate a former president, they will probably be detained or kept in jail until their trial. They are just too dangerous to be let out. Take a look at that sentence below. At the detention hearing, the judge decided the suspect should stay in jail until the trial. Please do me a favor. If you are enjoying this English lesson, hit that like button. And if this is your first time here, don't be afraid to subscribe so you never miss another English lesson.
That detention hearing you just mentioned is still underway here inside the federal courthouse in West Palm Beach. It comes as authorities revealed today that the suspect in this case allegedly authored a letter several months ago stating his intention to kill the former president.
What does it mean if something is underway? It means already happening or in progress. The investigation into the suspect's actions is now underway. It's happening. Construction on those apartments is underway. It has already begun. Revealed. Take a look at that picture. It looks like part of that picture is hidden. It looks like a picture of a city, but we can't see the whole thing. If that white piece of paper comes off of that picture, it will be revealed. What does revealed mean? Made something known that was hidden, something you couldn't see, but now it has been revealed. New information was revealed showing that the suspect had a detailed plan. There's that word, detailed. It means he knew exactly what he wanted to do. In the news clip, they used the verb authored. Have you ever heard of an author? That is someone who writes a book. Well, in the news clip, they said the suspect authored a letter. In other words, he wrote it. Take a look at that definition. Written or created by someone. Ruth authored a letter explaining why he wanted to harm Trump. Intention. Ruth's intention was to kill the president or the former president. But what's the definition? What someone plans or means to do. The investigators believed the suspect's intention was to cause harm to Trump. I hope you are watching this English lesson with the intention to improve your English. It's why you are watching me. And again, thank you for watching me. There are so many great English teachers out there, and you chose me. It means a lot.
The suspect in this case allegedly authored a letter several months ago stating his intention to kill the former president. Prosecutors using that evidence in court to try and convince the judge in this case to keep the suspect behind bars.
A great verb to know in English, convince. What does convince mean? To make someone believe something is true. I had to convince my wife to marry me. The prosecutors are trying to convince the judge that the suspect is dangerous. You may have heard somebody is in jail, but have you heard somebody is behind bars? It's the same thing. What does it mean? In jail or prison. The suspect is now behind bars as evidence against him grows. You might also be wondering, what is the difference between jail and prison? Well, in both places, you are behind bars, but prison is a little more serious than jail. Usually when people are in jail, they are only there temporarily, only for a short period of time. But we do often use those two terms interchangeably.
It comes as authorities revealed today that the suspect in this case allegedly authored a letter several months ago stating his intention to kill the former president. Prosecutors using that evidence in court to try and convince the judge in this case to keep the suspect behind bars.
Keep walking!
Investigators releasing new evidence today against the man accused of trying to assassinate former President Donald Trump last week on his West Palm Beach golf course. It comes as the suspect, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth, appeared in a federal courtroom today in West Palm Beach for a pretrial detention hearing.
Detention. There's that word again. Pre-trial detention. Anytime you see pre in English, think before. So it's basically somebody is being held before their trial. But let's get the official definition. Keeping someone in jail before their trial happens. The judge ordered the suspect to remain in pretrial detention because of the seriousness of the crime.
It comes as the suspect, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth, appeared in a federal courtroom today in West Palm Beach for a pretrial detention hearing. In a new court filing, prosecutors reveal Ruth allegedly wrote a letter stating his intention to kill the former president.
If someone is going to trial, you will hear prosecutors. What are those people? Prosecutors, lawyers, trying to prove that someone is guilty of a crime. In other words, they try to put the bad people behind bars. The prosecutors showed the evidence they collected from the suspect's home. Undisclosed. They said that word in the news clip. It means not shared or made public. If you look at that picture, it looks like there is some kind of sheet covering some kind of object. Right now, it's undisclosed. If the sheet came off that object, it would be revealed. Do you remember that word we just talked about? Some evidence remains undisclosed as the investigation continues. Let's use undisclosed when talking about former President Trump. Former President Trump was golfing from an undisclosed location. You know, to keep him safe, they probably didn't tell the public where the former president was golfing.
It comes as the suspect, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Ruth, appeared in a federal courtroom today in West Palm Beach for a pretrial detention hearing. In a new court filing, prosecutors reveal Ruth allegedly wrote a letter stating his intention to kill the former president. The handwritten note, left outside of an undisclosed home months earlier, inside a box that also contained ammunition, a metal pipe, and 4 phones. The letter reading, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you."
Ammunition. What is that? Bullets or other materials used in weapons. The police found ammunition that the suspect was going to use in the attack.
The handwritten note, left outside of an undisclosed home months earlier, inside a box that also contained ammunition, a metal pipe, and 4 phones. The letter reading, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you. I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It's up to you now to finish the job, and I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete it."
The suspect wrote gumption in his letter. This is not a word I often use, but it means courage and confidence to do something. This can be good or this can be bad. The suspect had the gumption to plan such a dangerous attack. I don't suggest you use this word in your everyday conversation, but if you hear it, now you know it. Along with this word that he used in his letter, I use this word a little bit more often, and I will tell you how I use it. But muster. Muster means to gather or bring together. Sometimes when I'm really tired in the morning, I have to muster the energy to get out of bed. The police mustered all their resources to catch the suspect before he could act. We have muster in English, but we also have mustard. Little bit of a different pronunciation there. Mustard. The yellow stuff you might put on a hot dog or a hamburger.
"I tried my best and gave it all the gumption I could muster. It's up to you now to finish the job, and I will offer $150,000 to whomever can complete it."
It's up to you. They said that in the news report. It's up to you. What does that mean? The decision is yours to make. You could say this to another person when they ask you a question and you don't really care. For example, my wife and I say this about once or twice a night. Jamie might ask me, "What do you want to do for dinner?" And I often say, "It's up to you. Like, I don't care. You can pick." And then sometimes she tells me, no, it's up to you. And we just don't decide where to go. That was not the case today. This morning, I texted Jamie really early and said, "Oh, I'm already hungry. Do you want to have tacos for dinner?" She quickly texted me back and said, "Yes!" Exclamation point. So after I record this lesson, I'm going to get tacos. Let's use it in a sentence. The investigator said, "It's up to you, Judge, whether the suspect stays in jail." Jamie and I often say this about dinner plans. "Where do you want to eat?" "I don't care. It's up to you."
In the same filing, authorities say Ruth also authored a book about Ukraine and world affairs, writing that he, quote, "must take part of the blame for the person we elected for our next president that ended up being brainless."
Blame. Do you know this word, blame? I had AI draw this picture for me. I said, "Could you please draw a picture of 2 brothers with one blaming the other for breaking a cookie jar?" We'll take a look at that picture in just a minute. But blame means to say that someone is responsible for something bad. Yeah, let's look at this picture. Oh, it looks like they live in South Korea. I can see the flag on the wall, but it looks like the older brother or the taller brother is blaming the little brother for breaking the cookie jar, or at least knocking it over. I can't tell. Is that glass broken? It looks like they just spilled the cookies onto the floor. No glass needs to be picked up. What about the mom? I can't tell. Is she mad? I bet the older brother did it. He's just trying to blame the little one. Let's look at a sentence using blame. The suspect tried to blame someone else, but the evidence showed he acted alone. Probably my favorite word from this list, brainless. Brainless. Do you know what your brain is? There is a picture of a man's brain, and that picture, it's light blue. Your skull or your head is the outer part of your brain. It literally means without a brain. That's what less means at the end of a word in English, without. Very foolish or not smart. The prosecutors argued that the suspect made a brainless mistake by leaving evidence behind.
Must take part of the blame for the person we elected for our next president that ended up being brainless. Iran, I apologize. You are free to assassinate Trump as well as me for that error in judgment. Prosecutors using the new evidence to convince a judge that Ruth should remain in federal custody until the outcome of his trial.
Error. I'm going to say that a couple times because we have another word that's almost like error. What is an error? It's a mistake. The suspect made an error by not covering his tracks carefully, but we also have era. I do think I pronounce this the wrong way sometimes when I'm speaking quickly, but the pronunciation is era, and it means a period of time in history. I don't know much about Greek or Roman history, but that building and the picture could be from the ancient Roman era or maybe the ancient Greek era. This era will be remembered for the serious attempts on Trump's life. I think if I could choose any era in which to live, I would pick the United States in the 1960s. It looks like a pretty fun place to be. You can see the peace signs on the buildings. It looks like there are a bunch of hippies in the picture. The 60s in the United States definitely had their problems, but there was great music to listen to. I don't know. What do you think? Which era would you live